Friendship isn't the big things, it's a million little things. Hello there, friends, and welcome to this, another episode of A Million Little TV Shows podcast. This is where we break down and discuss episodes of TV shows that you may not have even heard of. I believe these TV shows need a little more love, and that is what this platform is here to do. Each week we will be covering different shows from all over the globe. We'll be breaking down each episode, giving you the main highlights, and going through it bit by bit. But for now, I think it's best that we find out what's on the menu today. Hello there, and welcome back to this A Million Little TV Shows podcast. This is now episode 4 of season 8, and I am so excited to get into this episode today. I absolutely love Inside Number 9, and this is probably one of the better series, and they've all been fucking excellent, let's face it. But with these last 3 episodes, especially the one I've just watched, it's fucking so excellent. It's a total mindfuck at all times. You're never sure which way you're going, and it's a testament to the fucking whole show that how good it actually is. So I really just want to get into it. But as for today, I hope you're all doing well. Well, I hope you're all doing well every day, but thank you for being here and thank you for listening to my voice and enjoying the show. It means a hell of a lot to me. I am really proud of the show. I'm really chuffed that it's doing as well as it has been, and we are getting ever closer to that 100th episode. So it's a real shock for me to actually still be doing this after all this time, because, things like this, when I don't see results that I actually want, it's difficult. I always thought that this would be able to pay out by now, and that I could actually do more things with the podcast, adverts-wise, but just not there just yet. But we are getting there, so I am enjoying this. I really am. I love watching these TV shows again and just catching up with them and seeing how fucking great they are. And the podcast just goes from strength to strength, so what can I say? The numbers are incredible. I didn't think that it would be this way so soon. And I'm always getting positive feedback for it. What more can I ask for? So I think we should just get into it, because these last 3 episodes of season 7 of Inside Number 9 are great. So this is Inside Number 9, season 7, episodes 4 to 6. Episode 4, Kidnap. This episode stars Daisy Haggard as Lara, Daniel Myers as Shane, Jason Isaacs as Clifford, Shea Smith as Dominic, and Pemberton as D.I. Ellis. First of all, before I get into this episode, Jason Isaacs, Daisy Haggard is a fucking big name over here, but Jason Isaacs, that's huge. I cannot believe that Jason Isaacs ended up in Inside Number 9. What a coup. But anyway, we start the episode with Lara, and she's waking up after just a normal night, but there seems to be something different wrong with her. She just doesn't seem happy. She goes about a normal morning routine until she gets a message saying that she is getting a package delivered that day. However, at this point the screen is split in half and we see another man, Shane, who is basically going about his own morning routine, but this seems a little bit more extreme. This includes drinking beer at that time in the morning. Shane gets ready for work and heads out. It looks like Shane is a postman. So we can only assume that this is the postman that's going to be dropping off whatever it is that Lara has. Lara's husband Dominic leaves her to it and heads out to work. Dominic is some sort of investment banker or hedge fund manager or something along those lines. And not much longer after that, Shane turns up at the door. However, Shane is not the typical postman. Turns out that Shane is actually a kidnapper. He chloroforms Lara and drags her out the house, putting her in his van and taking her to a secluded location where he ties her up to a chair. He puts on a mask and puts on a voice muffler, but at the end of the day, she's already seen his face. Because he couldn't turn up to the house as a postman with a mask on, it would have looked weird. Not that he wasn't carrying a woman out of there later on, but hey-ho. It's all how Shane is justifying it to himself. He tells Lara that he needs to make a phone call to her husband, and he is obviously trying to get a ransom out of Dominic. When he rings him, he tells him that he wants £1.3 million. But Dominic at this point doesn't know what's going on, because in the next room, Lara has already rung Dominic and told him that she's been kidnapped, but he doesn't believe her. Then when he gets the second phone call from Shane, he thinks it's all just a joke, until Dominic ends up ringing Lara back and finds out that actually this is true. Shane takes the phone and tells him that he needs to comply with the stipulations, otherwise they'll kill his wife. D.I. Ellis is brought in and they say that they're not going to wire the money. It doesn't make sense to at this time, but they need to make sure that everything is above board. But Dominic doesn't seem to be that aggrieved about all of this. It doesn't seem as urgent to him to get his wife back. And so we can see why in the first few scenes of this, Lara wasn't too chuffed to be up and about with him. Eventually, after a while, another man comes to where Shane is, a man named Clifford. He lets himself in and he begins to roll out the plan as to what the hell's going on. He sends Shane to the shops and then we find out the actual truth of all this. Clifford and Lara have actually been having an affair for a long time. They've worked all this out so that they can run off and escape together. Hopefully, with Dominic's money. They had Shane as just a patsy and they were going to end up just running off. Eventually, when Shane comes back, he finds that Lara isn't tied to the chair anymore. Shane takes out the gun that he's been threatening Lara with throughout the whole episode, and he and Clifford struggle until the inevitable gunshot goes off. Lara obviously hopes for Shane to be dead, but it turns out that Clifford is the one who's died. He begins to threaten Lara and tells her that he needs that money and that this has all gone to pot. But Lara manages to manipulate him and tell him that her and Clifford were in on all this. Her and her husband's marriage has broken down, and when she asked for a divorce, he didn't give it to her. If he'd have only given her that, this would have all been sorted. But now, she has to resort to these tactics. Shane understands and they come up with a new plan. He sends some earrings and some cuttings of some ears through to Dominic after he threatened that he would cut off his wife's ears. Dominic's response to that is when the kidnapper rings back and asks for the money. He says, "Can we negotiate? Because you're not sending my wife back whole," which just shows the type of person Dominic is. Eventually, Dominic signs off on this and the police roll out. They know exactly where Shane is hiding and where Lara is being kept hostage. They send Dominic in to do the final transfer while everyone else waits outside, just to make sure that this is all above board. However, they knock out Dominic, Shane steals his clothes, and Lara and Shane run off into the sunset, while D.I. Ellis and Dominic realise that it was actually Clifford's ears that turned up in the mail, and that his wife has just fleeced him for $1.3 million. Episode 5, A Random Act of Kindness. This episode stars Noah Valentine as Zach, Jessica Hines as Helen, Pemberton as Bob, and Shearsmith as Rudolph. Now this episode absolutely fucking fries my brain. I've watched it several times now, and I just don't know how to describe it best, so I'm going to try and get through it as best as I possibly can, but it is a bit of a mind meld, this one. But it's such a good episode, and very, very creative from these guys. I genuinely, after 7 seasons, don't know how they were still coming up with stuff, but they were doing it, and it was fucking fantastic. So Helen and her son Zach live in a house together, and it seems that they don't really get along. Zach is a teenager, and he really just disrespects his mother at all times, and he is not nice to her whatsoever. But he's got to that age where he is rebelling against authority, and he's just in a bad space. It seems that Helen is a single parent, and she's having a tough time of it, with the fact that Zach is growing up as fast as he is. Zach's father has gone over to live in Singapore, and all Zach wants to do is go out there and live, because he just wants to get as far away from the UK as possible, and especially his mother. He thinks that the reason that his mum and dad split up is because of his mother, but it's actually because of the father. The father was the one that left. While Zach's up in his room, all of a sudden, out of the back window, a bird flies into it. We see the bird struggling for breath, and then all of a sudden 2 shoes appear around it. It picks the bird up, and there is a knock at Helen's door. Outside is a man, Bob. He has the bird in his hands. He asks if he can come in and help the bird. It seems that it is just stunned, and he just wants to make sure that the bird is okay. While inside, he and Helen have conversations, and she talks about the fact that she's alone with her son, and they get into talking about physics because it's something that Bob is interested in, but also it's something that Zach is doing at university, or wants to do at university. Zach comes downstairs and Bob tries to bond with him a little bit, but Zach, being the teenager he is, isn't bothered. He's not wanting to engage with this strange man who is in his home. Bob, however, offers out help because he knows about physics and he's studied at a university. He tells Helen that he's available, and if Zach wants any extra tutoring, he's happy to help. And so that's exactly what happens. He comes over and he starts speaking to Zach, and Zach starts to pick this up more, and he starts to see certain things, certain patterns, and he starts to create certain theories about black holes and about physics in general. And it seems that Bob is really helping him along with the theory side of the work. Bob notices that Zach has a tattoo, just saying Zach on his forearm, and Zach admits that it was only to piss his mother off. He doesn't like her very much, and she doesn't seem to like him. But Bob seems quite put out by this. He doesn't like the dynamic between the mother and the son. During dinner, however, we see that Helen tends to get drunk on a night. She tends to have a glass of wine around through most of the episode, and it seems to be something that Zach has picked up on and he doesn't like about his mother. After Zach storms off upstairs because Helen is interrogating Bob and asking him questions and trying to get to know him, Helen tries it on with Bob, or at least she is trying to connect with him in a different way. Bob makes his excuses and leaves, but the next day Helen starts to put some things together and realises that Bob might not be who he actually says he is. Helen gets a phone call from the hospital that she's been having tests and she's asked to come in to talk about those tests. While she's out of the house, Bob comes over and Zach is home alone. Bob and Zach start to speak, but it seems that Zach doesn't want to know anything about Bob anymore. He's taken his mother's words on board and doesn't want to see him anymore. After Zach goes upstairs, leaving Bob alone in the house, Bob follows him upstairs. And we know how dark this show could get, and you tend to feel for the worst. However, Bob sits down and starts talking to Zach. He tells him that all his theories were correct, and that in the future he is going to do something that is beyond belief, especially in the world we currently live in. It is insane to think about. And then Bob shows Zach who exactly he is. He pulls out his arm and he shows Zach that that is his name, that is his tattoo on Bob's forearm. Bob is Zach from the future. He's come here to tell him that if he doesn't change his ways, he's going to regret the person that he becomes. Yes, he becomes this incredible scientist, but he misses out on so much. He misses out on his mother, and he misses out on his own children. He needs to change his ways now, because if he doesn't, he'll just end up being a shell of a man like Bob is. Zach can't understand what is happening, but he understands enough. Bob then tells Zach the news about his mother. He says that his mother is terminally ill, and if Zach doesn't change his ways, and if he goes off to Singapore to be with his dad, his mother won't survive. She'll be dead very, very soon, and he'll never ever be able to say any words to her again. At that point, Helen comes home. On the table is a device that Bob has left behind. It seems like it's his phone, but when Helen picks it up and answers it and talks to the person on the other end, this man Rudolph tells her that Bob cannot be trusted, and that whatever he is saying is a lie. Just then there is a gunshot upstairs and Helen runs up. She finds Zach in there and Bob sat in a chair with his brains smothered on the wall. She grabs her son Zach and she tells him he's okay. He tells her that he loves her so much and that he's so sorry for the way that he's been. Years later, we see Zach as an older man, as what Bob looked like. And he is at the funeral of his mother. His mother ended up living till she was 92 and has had an amazing life. She was there when he got his Nobel Prize, but he got his Nobel Prize in chemistry, not in physics. We see another familiar face there, however, it is Rudolph, and Rudolph stays behind after the wake, and he talks to Zach. He tells him that exactly what he did was a feat beyond any other. He managed to save his mother for so long and was able to create a cure for the cancer that she had, and that he's one of the best scientists he's ever known, really. But it seems that even though the timeline changed, Rudolph managed to get a message to himself from the past. or from his other self on another timeline. And Rudolph has told himself exactly what happened, exactly who Zach was, or Bob, and exactly why he changed the timeline the way that he did. And all Rudolph now wants is that timeline back. He asks him where the time machine is that he used, and he threatens to kill him. Eventually, everything that happened goes in reverse, and we go back to the timeline we started with. However, the bird flies into the window, and nobody turns up. Like I say, it's a mindfuck, that one. It's such a good episode, and it's one of the crazier ones that they've ever done, but I love it. It's such a fucking incredible episode. Very emotive, and the fact that it all goes back after all the hard work that Bob's done, or Zach's done, is such a shame, but it is a great episode. And finally, episode 6, Wise Owl. This is incredibly disturbing, and you've been warned. This episode stars Shearsmith as Ronnie, Pemberton as Mr. Blinkin, Ron Cook as Wilf, and Georgie Glenn as Dina. Ronnie, it seems, is having a really tough time with things, and he seems to be living on his own. He seems to be living an existence that isn't too inviting to your average person. He seems very alone, and he seems very lonely, and he gets to a point where he's wanting to end his own life. I told you it was a rough one. And so just before he tries anything, there is a knock at the door, and it's Mr. Blinkin. Ronnie, it seems, is a taxidermist, and Mr. Blinkin has been told that he will be able to perform taxidermy on this rabbit that his daughter has, and it recently died. Ronnie takes it inside and puts it on the table, doesn't even think about it. As the night wears on, Ronnie gets a phone call from his mother Dina, and it seems that Dina has reminded Ronnie about an incident that happened, and it seems to be an anniversary of someone's death. Dina asks if Ronnie's dad will be coming along, and Ronnie says he doesn't know. He hasn't seen him in so long, and neither has Dina. Throughout the episode, we keep getting these weird, creepy, old 70s style safety adverts where two children are getting told by a wise owl about safety features and how not to do a certain thing because it's dangerous, and just in general how to stay safe. But the animation on this is creepy as all hell, and it's very in that old 70s style, but it is very, very weird to look at, and the way that the owl is a little bit creepy as well. Eventually, after a couple of days, Ronnie starts to work on this rabbit that's been given to him, and he remembers back to, for some reason, a strange video of when the wise owl taught him how to do taxidermy, which doesn't seem like a safety video to me, but hey-ho. But after Ronnie does the work, Mr. Blinkin turns up and demands to have the rabbit back. It would seem that the man who actually lives in the house is in his 70s, whereas Ronnie seems quite a lot younger than that. Mr. Blinkin asks who he is, but Ronnie doesn't answer him, just closes the door. We see not only these videos, but the fact that Ronnie is plagued by a man dressed as an owl throughout the episode. In one particular instance, a man walks into a room wearing an owl's head and nothing more. And so we can only assume that somewhere in Ronnie's past, he's been sexually abused. And it's by whoever was behind the owl. After a day or so, Wilf turns up, and this is Ronnie's dad. Ronnie's dad, however, is also the voice of the owl. We see another video of Ronnie and his sister having a birthday party. Ronnie's sister wants to light her candles, but Ronnie says no, we can't do that. She says she knows where the matches are and that she really wants to light her candles, but Ronnie says no, we should wait for Mum. Eventually we see the outcome of what happened there, and it turns out that that was how it played out. But Ronnie and his sister were in the house that day with their father. Wilf had got drunk and was yelling things at his son from the couch, basically telling him that his sister can do whatever she wants because it's her birthday and nothing should stop her from doing what she wants to do, so if she wants to light the candles, let her. Turns out that his sister died in a fire, and Ronnie never forgave himself for that, but Ronnie also ended up in a care home because his father blamed him for the death. But at the time when this happened, Ronnie was actually upstairs at his father's behest because his father had took Ronnie upstairs and was abusing him at the time when his sister burnt the house down. Wilf tried to cover it up because he was the wise owl. He was the safety owl on TV. And it couldn't be that he let his own daughter play with matches, but he let his son take the fall for it. And it seems that Ronnie is there to get his own back on his father. He takes his father upstairs at knife point and is willing to kill his father, but his father has such a hold over him that when he asks him to come and sit on the bed with him, it seems that Wilf is going to abuse his son once more. But Ronnie, knowing that he's going to end up back in the home if he does what he wants to do and kill his father, decides it's a bad idea, and after a struggle, Ronnie manages to get away. And he tells his father that he's going to tell his mother exactly what his father did to him all those years earlier. It would seem that Ronnie has spent the last few decades in this home because of what his father did. His father was such a respected man that his son ended up taking the fall for him, and it ended up ruining Ronnie's life. And he still seems to be that poor child that was abused all those years earlier. Like I said, it was a fucking rough one, that. It's meant to be a dark comedy. There's nothing fucking funny about that. It's one of the darkest episodes of this show. It's insane. I remember when it came out and a lot of people were shocked at this episode. It is heartbreaking that this goes on and this has gone on and this went on many years ago. It really is shocking and scary. But it is an important message. It is an important episode to have out there. And especially at the time, there was a lot about sexual harassment. I mean, there still is now, but at the time there was a hell of a lot about sexual harassment and the Me Too movement. And at the time in wrestling, there was a thing about a speaking out movement. And there were places that people could start to feel safe. And it was a really hard time. And this is a hard episode to watch. It really is. But, I mean, the show in all is incredible. The cast is brilliant, and the way that they did this, because a lot of us will remember those sort of adverts from the 70s, or you'll have seen them at the advent of things like YouTube and the internet. We'll have all seen these weird adverts from years gone by, and I'm sure some of them will have a backstory like this, that someone was the subject of abuse from a famous person. We've all heard about it. We've seen it in the news. We've seen it everywhere. Fucking hell, one of them's the president. So, anyway, I'm done for today because this is an emotional one. This is a hard one for me. But, look, I love this show. I love Inside Number 9. I'm sad that it ended, but I'm glad that it ended at the point that it did. I can't wait to cover Season 8 next season because it's such a good show. So, Season 8 will be coming up soon. But I'm done for this season of Inside Number 9. It's a quick season. They usually are, but yeah, hopefully you can get hold of a copy of it because it is a good show. It's really interesting, and the amount of genres they cover and the amount of different things that they do, it's incredible what they can do with such a small cast and such a small, I don't want to say concept because it's not a small concept. It's 55 episodes of difference and nuance and clever twists and brilliant story writing. So I love it. I'm never going to stop watching it. I think it's great, but I'm done. So thank you for listening. I hope you're all doing well out there in an incredibly crazy world. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you to the people who've gone out and bought the book, because there are a few of you and it's doing all right. So my friends are happy. I'm happy. Thank you for listening. And until next time, I will speak to you soon. Bye. And that is it for now, amigos. And yes, I am as angry as you are at me for that sentence, but I hope you enjoyed the show and had some fun along the way. It means a lot that you are listening and supporting me. This is an independent podcast after all, and doesn't get a lot of backing, so it is great to know that you're out there, you're listening. And if you want to come talk to me on any of the platforms I'm on, just come say hi. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, and I'm even a little bit on TikTok. I don't post that much, but I'm on there. And you can also drop comments in the comment sections on any of the platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, wherever you get your podcasts from. But as always, thank you for your time, and I will speak to you soon.